Hello, Canada. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, we have just witnessed a phenomenal record, the largest rally in Canadian history. I've kind of been going back and I can't find anything even close to what Pierre Poilievre has pulled off tonight. This is beyond amazing. I'm going to go over a few clips that I've got of the rally. I wish I could have been there. I would love to have felt the energy in the room. But let me tell you, turn the volume up. You will feel the energy through the video alone. Then we're going to dive into Carney's rally tonight, which is 30 minutes away from where Poilievre had his in Surrey, where he packed over 4,000 people. And then we're going to dive into some comments that Carney has made, like an idiot. Nobody should be surprised. He's dividing Canada just like Trudeau does. This is how they take power, and using mainstream, which hopefully you saw in my previous episode. And we're going to give Danielle Smith's remarks on that and a little bit on separatism that she had in a presser today. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. This is absolutely amazing. I'm going to start before the rally even started. So this is hours before. There's like major tailgate parties going on. This is 3 hours before. Check out all these people waiting to get in.
Hi guys.
Hey Sheila!
Hi, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good. Hi guys. Hi.
Thank you,
Hi. Hi, great shirt. Hi.
Now, it goes right
Thanks,
around the
guys.
building. Literally right around the
Hi.
building.
Hi. Holy moly. Hi. Hey. What time did you guys get here?
I think around like 1:30. No, not 2:30. 2:30.
Oh
yeah.
man.
Hey.
Hi guys. Hi.
Nice to see you, Sheila.
Hi.
Oh, Sheila.
Hey. Hi.
Anyways, I don't want
you.
this
What
video
time
being
did you
overly
get
long.
here?
I got some important clips I want to show you. Let's just move right along. So now this is driving in. This is the highway. This is driving in. This is people had to park so far away. They were walking. I guess it was like almost a mile from where the overflow parking was. Oh my god. Oh. This is out of Poilievre's bus window. This is what he was seeing as he was driving up. Look at the line of people.
Yeah, it keeps going all the way.
Over there.
Yeah.
There's other lines over there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Il y a tous les amis à papa cousin. Tous les amis qui viennent voir papa.
Look at the lineups. Wow.
It's going to be a big one. Hope to see you there.
No doubt, Pierre. This is Rebel. She went to the back of the line. People were already inside. This video is over. It took her 8 minutes And people are still funneling in. There's people coming all down that road. I'm just going to kind of fast forward. I'll do it in little chunks here so you can get a... Like, look how huge this building is. Look at the people. Look at the people. So far, I have a guaranteed 15,000 people, but it sounds like there were even more. I'm not sure how you could even calculate a head count of that size in this type of a building. Look at this lineup. It just keeps going and going. Look at the size of this building, people. Look at them, they're already funneling. That whole side is full. This is absolutely astonishing. This is unheard of. I just don't believe the polls. Now, I know this is in Alberta. This is the heartland. This is conservative country. But still, I've never seen any other conservative leader even come close to this, ever. When I was young, it was 3,000, 4,000 people at these rallies. This, like I said, unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. Now, this is the footage. Like this is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Building is absolutely huge, and it's I'm almost speechless. That is absolutely incredible. And it is so overwhelming to see. It's just, that makes me so happy. Now, this is the distance from where Poilievre packed in. I think it was a little more than 4,000. I think the numbers came in around 4,300 people. So you can see this is where he was. This is in Surrey. This tonight is where Carney is in Richmond. If you take a look, it's 27 minutes, 29 minutes if they take the highway, and approximately 32 minutes if you take the Westminster. So let's say during a busy traffic day, 40, 45 minutes away. Not that far, like super close. So let's see how the polls, they're saying BC is all red. This is Mark Carney's audience at his rally tonight in Richmond.
Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce my husband, your Liberal leader, and the Prime Minister who will make Canada strong. And Canada...
feel any enthusiasm there. Oh, it's coming back. And it's gone. And it's back. Now, I'm going to back up here so you can see the full event. This is the full event. Right there. You see the corners? Same distance from the Canadian flag to one side to the other. That's it. They were saying 700 people, but I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of empty spaces in the corner cavities. Cameras at the very back. I don't know. Kind of scroll through. I don't see. Like, pretty sure. I would be guessing between 550, 650, maybe 700.
They want our polls
but
at that
yeah.
age.
I don't think they can stop this blue wave. I think they're trying everything. And if you watch my previous episode with all this infiltration going on, I think these polls are wrong. And I think with the technology gap, I think we may see very well what kind of happened in the States. Conservatives don't answer polls. They don't. They don't like them. The second anybody on a computer comes on the line, they've got much better things to do in their life, like go to work, spend time with family, anything, but rather than talk to a computer or the government, they hang up the phone. So they've never really been big pollers. But after seeing like what's been going on across Canada with Poilievre, I don't know. I don't know. Now, I want to show you this. This is a clip of Carney. This just happened. He's an absolute idiot. I'm sorry. Listen to the words that come out of this man's mouth. It's not even shocking anymore. It's just to the point where it's just sickening. It's sickening listening to this rhetoric. You think we would have had enough with Trudeau, and it's just going to get worse with this guy. It's so frustrating to listen to this type of divisive talk.
We're fighting the Americans in the pocketbook. We have retaliatory tariffs on them. We just hit them again in the auto sector. We're fighting them on...
By the way, those tariffs that he just hit, Canadians are paying for that. Canadians are paying for that, just so you know.
Fox News, which is what they understand. We're sending Doug Ford onto Fox News to show them
they love liberals.
We're not messing around up here. And we're going to send Danielle next. Maybe we won't send her. Maybe we'll send Danielle. No, maybe we won't. We won't send Danielle. We're going to keep her. No, keep her. No, it's a bad idea. Forget. Strike that. Strike that. Just ignore that back there. So we go. We're fighting.
How low can you possibly go? Now, if you've looked at previous episodes of mine, you know that Danielle Smith saved Canada a lot of heartache. She was doing the work of what a prime minister should have been doing, fighting for the whole of Canada against these tariffs. She was back to back with what the Mexican president was doing, Sheinbaum. She was talking to every single representative. It didn't matter, red or blue. Didn't matter. She was talking to all of them, trying to get the point across. Tariffs are bad for everybody. This man had nothing to do with any of it. And yet he thinks he's taking credit. All he's done is... And then pump up Doug. Doug went down there. He was standing up in Canada like you think he was up on a hill like some 400-pound dog. And then by the time he comes running down the hill, they realize he was only a 30-pound chihuahua with a fake set of teeth. And Lutnick and the States literally kicked his butt, and he came running home with his tail between his legs and caused more grief than anything. I mean, kudos, at least Dougie was trying to talk, but his mouth. But still, this type of rhetoric? Really? How divisive can you possibly get? You're supposed to bring Canada together, unify Canada. Something Poilievre's been doing. Not this guy. This guy's a schmuck. Now, let's get on to Danielle Smith. Listen to some of these questions. She's brilliant. I hope Alberta, Saskatchewan don't leave. I hope they don't leave. Because I can see her being the first female prime minister of Canada. If the East pompous puke asses, that there's a few out there, always enough to control the Liberal votes, which sucks. The Liberal cardholders that hate strong women. Hopefully, they will learn anybody can lead if you've got the right frame of mind, if you have the right principles and morals, like she does. And like I said, if Alberta and Saskatchewan don't leave and she runs for prime minister, she's got my vote. Hands down. Listen carefully. This is how a politician talks.
I wanted to ask you about a new poll that says 3 in 10 Albertans want to leave Canada if Mark Carney's Liberals win this election. You've said that you won't lead a referendum, but where do you stand on this? Do you want Alberta to leave Canada?
Well, I want Canada to work. I want Canada to be able to meet its potential. I want for us to be able to build economic corridors. I want us to be able to develop all of our resources, from oil and gas all the way through to critical minerals and beyond. But I also want Canada to work for Alberta, and it hasn't for the last 10 years because of terrible policies by the Liberals. And so I put forward a list of 9 items that I think would allow for us to have a reset in our relationship with the Federation, depending on who wins in 3 weeks' time. And that stands today. Those are some very basic things if we want to actually move to that reality of making Canada an economic powerhouse and supporting Alberta in particular. So I really hope that we can get Canada on Team Alberta, because Team Alberta has always been on Team Canada.
Hello, Premier Laurence Martin from Radio-Canada. Pierre Poilievre will be here tonight. Can you explain, just to go back to an earlier comment that you made, how is he in sync with the Trump administration?
Well, that's a question for him.
But do you see any parallel between him and Donald Trump, for instance, in their style of politics?
You listen to this. This is propaganda media. That's what this is. Radio de Canada. Because a lot of them there actually think that Poilievre is going to cut them. When he said literally from day one, he doesn't want to touch Radio de Canada. He doesn't want to touch CBC Radio at all. Because he understands how important it is, especially to rural Canadians. I have had to remind so many people of this. They're all like, it's all gotta go. People, when we're up in the bush, this is how we wish Merry Christmas and birthdays to each other. This is how we get emergency weather broadcasting. This is how we communicate to when our planes are coming in and leaving. This is the most vital lifeline that remote Canadians have. It's closed-minded, city dweller, urbanite thinking that you can get rid of Radio Canada without it affecting Canadians. You can get rid of CBC television. You can get rid of CBC News. That would be a benefit to Canada, because all they do is brainwash. All they are is propaganda. I hope you watched the previous episode, because I like, it's so easy to show they are propaganda. And again here, this lady from Radio de Canada. What kind of a question is that? That's purposely being decisive on something that you know is an absolute bullshit question. It's a bullcrap question. Poilievre has not changed in 20 years. There's video clips of him when he first started running, saying the exact same things he's saying now. People really have to wake up. Anyways, moving on.
I would say that everybody in Canada, to a person, is opposed to tariffs, unfair tariffs against Canadian goods and services. And every one of us, no matter what political stripe, no matter what level of government, is working to try to get the U.S. president to honor the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement.
So no parallels?
No.
Graham Thompson, the Star. I have a question on today's topic. It's a second question. The first question is going back to this idea about Western separation. Preston Manning wrote an op-ed last week in the Globe and Mail saying, warning people in the rest of Canada, a vote for Carney's Liberals is a vote for Western secession. Do you see it that way?
I think that there is a lot of frustration on the part of Albertans, and I think you see it. I mean, I'd be blind if I didn't see what is occurring in the media, on social media. I have to acknowledge that there's a lot of unhappiness on the part of Albertans in the way we've been treated by the Liberal government for the past 10 years. And unfortunately for the current Prime Minister, he seems to not be very clear about what it is he's going to do to reset that relationship, because he says different things in different parts of the province, different parts of the country, different things in English and French. And so I'm going to have a 6-month period after the election where I have a number of items that I put on the table early that I think need to be done to address the 10 years of economic devastation that the federal government has caused to our province. And I would hope no matter who wins that we'd be able to correct those things. But I judge people more by their action than by their words. And so I want to be able to see what happens after the next election, and then I'll gauge where Albertans are at that point.
And a second question on today's announcement. This sounds a bit like the voucher system for education, where the money follows the student. Here's following the patient.
Thanks so much. Hi, Premier Smith, Laura Stone, Globe and Mail. Just back to Laurence's question about your comments about Mr. Poilievre being in sync with the Trump administration. How is that for Mr. Poilievre to answer? You're the one who said it. So are you kind of backtracking on that? And do you think your interventions have actually hurt Mr. Poilievre's chances of winning the election?
I'm focused on provincial politics and provincial policy, and I let the two political leaders who are front runners battle it out with themselves.
Okay, and on the Manning Center, could I just ask about the Strong and Free conference and whether you have any qualms about attending there's some members there who are close to the Trump administration, Robert Lighthizer, for instance, your keynote speaker, or do you have any second thoughts about attending that conference, and if not, why?
Well, you engage in diplomacy by talking to people, and if there are people there who are influential on the U.S. administration, you bet I'm going to talk to them. I think that the former trade ambassador, having an understanding of what might lead to a breakthrough and getting us back to a constructive Canada-U.S. free trade agreement sounds like a pretty good conversation to have. And so I go there. I think I've gone every year for the last number of years, so I'm going to keep on going.
Thank you. And we're going to take a couple questions from the phones now. Operator, could you put through our first caller, please?
We have a question from Rick Bell from Post Media. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, Premier and Minister, and of course to Dr. Eagle, who I've known for many, many years. How do you feel about being mocked by the Prime Minister of Canada and Liberal leaders, which he did, I believe, in Victoria, bringing your name up and the name of Premier Ford? But
this is the video I showed you. That's why I showed it to you, for you to have to understand where the question came from.
More so yourself, and making you the butt of jokes during the campaign.
Well, I've noticed this with progressive men, how much they talk about how much they support women until they meet a strong conservative woman. And so this is a pretty consistent type of approach that I've seen, not only from the current Prime Minister, but the former one as well. And the attitude is, sit down and shut up. Well, I don't shut up. I make sure that Albertans know exactly how I feel about issues, and I'm going to continue advocating on behalf of my province, whether he likes it or not.
Ready? Here's the mic. Boom! And she did it like a politician should. She did it in a respectable manner. That is the future leader of either the independent country of, I don't know, whatever they decide to name themselves, or Canada in the future, I hope.
And
wow.
The supplementary is, and I know you've stated obviously you are not a separatist, but do you think Canadians elsewhere outside Alberta should be concerned at what a Liberal victory, especially a Liberal majority government victory, would mean for a lot of people in Alberta? Because the emails I get is they're not concerned about that. They just think we're a bunch of self-entitled whiners. So and have written us off. So what are your thoughts about the fact that what should Canadians think at all about that national unity question?
I put on the table 9 things that I know that the federal government needs to do to reset its relationship with Alberta, and many of those things are necessary to reset the relationship with all of the provinces. If you go across the country, it's difficult to get anything built, any type of critical infrastructure. It's difficult to get any type of mining operations approved. You have not just 1 or 2 year timelines, you've got 10-year timelines to get things built and taken to market. And quite frankly, it's the federal government's job under the trade and commerce power that they have to facilitate that international access. So I would say that everyone should be concerned about the direction, and this is a very important election. Everybody should be concerned, should listen to the promises, and to see which of the candidates is actually going to unleash the economic power of every single province and every single region and every single industry. We just have had 10 years of experience with the Liberals, where they have done every possible thing they could to try to keep our oil and gas in the ground, or disincentivize investment, or chase away investment, or cancel investment. And I'm just here to say that ends, regardless of who becomes Prime Minister of Canada. And I think that as a measure of goodwill, addressing those 9 issues I put on the table would be a good start. So I'm going to judge it based on the actions of whoever happens to win on April the 28th.
Thank you. And we're going to take one more question from the phones before we come back to the room. Operator, could you put through the next caller, please?
Chris Farco from Calgary. The line is open.
Hi, this is a question for the Premier. Premier, I know you said earlier that you're not going to panic based on just several days of low oil prices into a new fiscal year, but we've seen oil prices have plunged by more than $10 in the past week. And at the same time, we've seen stock market turbulence continue today. I guess I'm wondering, what steps will the government take, or how will you respond to this volatility if it continues?
I would say that we're going to wait and see what happens after the election's over, see how quickly we can get into the Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement negotiations. In the meantime, I'll be doing a number of trade missions. I'm going to Ontario and Quebec to talk about how Alberta and Ontario and Quebec can do more business with each other. I'm going internationally to talk with to South Korea and Japan to see if we can open up new markets there. My trades minister was in Germany last week along with Scott Moe and Francois Legault. So every single premier is doing the same thing. Let's figure out how we can tear down trade barriers so we can trade more with each other to open up new markets, and how we can trade internationally in order to be able to offset any decline we might have in our relationship with the United States. I mean, that's necessary. It's kind of all of the above. If we can get restored relationship with the U.S., brand new markets, and trade more with each other, I think that will go a long way towards counteracting some of the damage that we're seeing. But if we're in the middle of what could be a global recession, there's nothing that I or any subnational government can do other than try to weather the storm. That's why we put forward a very realistic budget, expecting oil to average 68, expecting the differential to be 7.
And that was brilliant they did an amazing job doing that. They didn't caliber high, they calibered low. That makes a huge difference in their budget, and that's why their budget wasn't what everybody was expecting. They're like, what are you talking about? Oil's doing so good right now. It's not great, but it's not super low. I mean, everybody's drilling, obviously we were waiting for production to kind of pick up. We need more, we can do more. I mean, theoretically, we could be 4 or 5 times that size, producing way more energy. But as it stands right now, it's secure. They were showing good returns, but they didn't do like what Liberals do. They didn't put all their eggs in one basket. They were like, no, we're going to come through with the promises that we set out. We're going to try and meet all of those promises, but at the same time, we're not going to rob the kitty bank. We're not going to take from Peter to give to Paul, which is what the Liberals do. That's what they do all the time. That's why we are in this decade, this lost decade. All they do is spend, spend, spend. The purse is empty. The bank is knocking at the door. We are so susceptible to a depression. We're actually living in a type of early depression, and we have been for about a year and a half. Companies are fleeing. there are so many people unemployed that they don't even count on the unemployed chart. Unemployment, the way they regulate it, it's done off of literally those people who were working and are collecting EI. With that and a couple other very small stats, which is a really crappy way for the government to make it look like things are better than it really is. But truly, the actual unemployment rate, especially right now, just doing like basic math calculations, is 3 times higher than what they're saying. So if they're saying it's at, say, 6% or whatever, well, guess what? We're actually at 18%. I actually think we're a little bit higher than that. I think we're sitting closer to 20%. There's a lot of people who literally can't get jobs. They're working for wherever and whomever they can for cash, just like it was in the Depression. They are transient. They'll go anywhere they can. They don't care about the books. They just need to make money to pay the bills. That's how people are living. So the Alberta, they did a great job on holding their books back, because all it takes is for oil prices to boom, and now they got piles of excess dough that they don't have to worry about because they didn't over levy themselves on money. So they're not paying on debt. They're paying off debt and trying to guarantee that even if there's a worst case scenario, they can carry over for a couple years without having the economy shut down. Brilliant. Like I said, this woman should be our prime minister.
$17, and making certain assumptions about what the value of the Canadian dollar would be. It was a pretty gloomy budget for good reason, and also some additional measures in there that demonstrate that we've got a contingency to be able to support our program spending. But when you look at counter tariffs, those dollars go to Ottawa. So every dollar in counter tariff that our businesses are paying is accumulating in a bank account in Ottawa. And so that is why I've told business that if they need assistance in being able to help weather or transition, then we'll be advocating on their behalf. But some of this is really just wait and see and plan for the worst.
Just to follow up, I'm wondering if there is a recession, and we've already seen Alberta's jobless rate increase to 7.1% last month. Are there any plans where the government at this stage of the game, or that you're working on plans right now, to try and address the employment situation?
Everybody's guess, but it's the reason why we put forward such a realistic budget with a...
I think that's pretty much...
What's your comment on that, and do you believe him?
I think that there's a big advantage for our friends in both Ontario and Quebec to look at a way that they can get oil and gas directly from Western Canada, because right now they're exposed. That the vast majority of the oil and gas comes to Ontario and Quebec by way of the United States. And so I think that there's some, and also in some cases at a higher price than if they were to get it from Western Canada. So I think that there's a goal that we should have of being energy self-sufficient, food self-sufficient, and then finding new markets. And if we're able to have more goods coming to the West Coast so that they can be exported to Asia, and then we're able to have more of our goods going to the East Coast so it can be exported to Europe, I think that we should do everything we can to find those new trade routes, and I think it will require economic corridors, and I'm pleased to see all of the premiers seem to be in sync with wanting to make that happen. It's been quite a sea change in the last 4 months, and so I'm pretty optimistic that the premiers are going to find a path forward on it.
Thank you, and that's all the time we have
Thanks,
for questions today. Thank you, everyone.
And there you go. Yeah, sorry about that. There was that one last question. There's a big pause between the two. Now, I just want to show one more little clip. And it's hilarious because if you were to have a resume and your boss came up and he was to tell you the God's smacking truth, this is what it would sound like.
Running to be Prime Minister once worked for me. And in that regard, my choice, without hesitation, without equivocation, without a shadow of a doubt, is Pierre Poilievre.
There you go. Both these guys work for me, but without a shadow of a doubt, he thinks Pierre would be the best choice for Prime Minister. You don't get any better than a compliment than that. And again, do you see how nicely he put it? He could have been a real donkey, but he wasn't. The difference between conservatives and liberals, I guess. And you can tell by all the reactions. When the left doesn't get their way, they destroy stuff, light stuff on fire, hurt other people. They become malicious, mean, hateful, racist, misogynist. When conservatives don't get their way, they get together, they go have some beers, they talk it out, and they plan the next step. And now this planning is getting to the point where the parties, all of these separatist groups, are starting to join each other. They realize power in numbers, but they also realize this may very well be the time to do it. It's not idle threats anymore. The separatist movement is huge. And like I've said on previous episodes, southern Manitoba, all of Saskatchewan, all of Alberta, and almost 2/3 of BC. I'm going to do another one here with Elias Ross. There's a lot of crap where the Liberals are trying to feed this hate about Aaron Gunn, who's a does documentaries, and he's now running for the Conservative Party. He actually ran to be the Liberal leader, believe it or not, in BC, and he lost out. But he saw what happened to the Liberal Party federally, and because, like I said, the new Conservatives are small L, small c. The party itself is a very centrist party, so no matter what the media tries to push through saying it's all right-wing, it is far from that. We do have a Conservative Party, that's Maxime Bernier, and it's really sad that he's being excluded out of everything, because that's all we have now is the center, the left, and the extreme social fascists, which is the Liberals. We've completely shifted the entire society in a matter of 15 years. Everything has shifted completely to the left, and we have this huge right void. And we need the right. We need that conservative edge, because Bernier he's been correct on a lot of the things he says. Now, yes, there's a lot of things I disagree with him. I think he's got a bit of an attitude. His whole hate for Poilievre and the Conservative Party, it's kind of like self-sacrifice, except for you're not falling on a sword. You're just committing suicide. When that's not his enemy. Kind of like what Jake Meat's going through right now. And then he does little things where, like, I tied into him here on a post because he was, we got to get rid of all CBC. And like I said earlier, you obviously don't know all of Canada, because in remote areas, that radio is crucial. So he's got some learning to do, but all leaders do. But I still think he deserves a right at the debate stage. He deserves that right. All parties deserve that right. If they always they change, mainstream's like, you got to have 2% of the vote. And then when you get 3% of the vote, but it's a party they don't like, which is always on the right, which is always the conservative, they go, no, now you need 4%. They're always lifting the bar. Well, how will anybody ever know his policies if they never get a chance to hear what he's saying? In order to have real democracy, we need to have real debates. So that's how I feel anyways. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I thought it was Poilievre's rally, unbelievable. Like I said, largest rally. I look back, I couldn't find anything even close to it. That is the numbers alone. Everywhere he's been across Canada show that the polls are wrong. And the worst thing about the way the media is doing it is it's all the working class. It's the elitists and the handouts that are supporting Carney. And it's all the working class. What used to be the blue collar middle class, the standard everyday Canadian, from the bottom right to the top of middle class, small business owners. Those are all the people that are supporting Poilievre. That's Canadian as Canadian gets. These are the people who have the rest of Canada on their shoulders, and they're getting smothered. We are getting smothered. So I'm glad to see that wicked rally tonight. And I wish I could have been there. I really do. Crazy times. Well, once again, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you already are, punch that notification bell so you don't miss on any future episodes. And doing all of the above will help me grow my channel, which I need. Until next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm Alias Tagay. Stay informed.